Hello, friends. All kinds of noises going on here today, and I don't have my usual background music because I left all my background music equipment at my recent job location. All right, let's get started and let's get official. Daily Art Adventure number 916, transitioning from acrylics to oil. Things are in rough shape around here. I need a new clapper. Need a higher quality clapper next time. Thank you for watching again today. So you guys don't see me do still lifes very often. So there it is. There's the photograph that a client sent to me, bridal bouquet. This is a surprise to the bride from her husband, and some of this is paint that got splashed on it while I was doing the acrylics. So this is finished acrylics. Here's my rules. How do I know when it's time to transition from acrylics to oils? And the answer is when the drawing is almost perfect, when the colors are close to perfect, and when the values are pretty close to perfect. That's when it's time to transition. So I want my drawing close, my colors close, and my values close. They don't have to be dead on, but they have to be close. So that's where I am here. Let's talk about composition just a little bit. Again, this is my photograph, and I have already edited this quite heavily in Photoshop. It was a little bit more plain than this. But as you can see, I've made several adjustments. I've done, and I hope it's a right decision. I think it is. I've turned it into quite an unusual viewpoint, because normally we would see the flowers would be the focal point, a little bit more center. I've pushed the highlight of the flowers way up close to the corner, and indeed, I did this in Photoshop. I'll have some leaves, maybe some flowers going off the frame that way and going off this way. And whereas in the photograph, this is all bright and glowy. I've kept the glow but turned down the bright quite a bit. And indeed, I will have a few of the stems I expect go all the way off. This is a good example of avoiding what I call the donut hole syndrome. When you're painting a thing, a carefully and easily identifiable object. In my case, that would often be a house, a building. You don't want the entire building to be inside the boundaries of the painting. In this case, the clearly identifiable object is, of course, the bouquet of flowers. So you can see that I've modified it. First of all, in Photoshop, it's going to go spill off the edges, so that, because boy, I learned this the hard way years ago. I won't go into that, but I had a bush in the middle of, and the bush was in the painting, and it was surrounded, and it just, oh my goodness, it was a black hole in the middle of the painting, and it didn't work. That would just happen to be an eye-opener moment for me, and I've learned it many times since. So often you want it to spill. So let me go back to composition. So because I've done this rather unusual framing, changed considerably to make this work. And that is, whereas this is dark background down here, I'm going to make it light. And in my opinion, that is going to make a huge difference. So there'll be a glow coming down here, not real bright, not competing brightness with this, but just a glow. So the center of gravity, if you will, of the painting, then because of that, comes down to the middle of the painting. All right, enough of talking. Oh, and by the way, so I have that photograph. It was very grainy, not a good quality photo at all. So I went online, did a search, and got some other photographs of roses that I will use. Certainly for this one rose, which is right there, is a focal point. You know, that's really important. I don't know which of these I'm going to use yet, but there would be one rose in this bouquet that is realistic, fairly sharp, in focus, fairly accurately rendered, and for that I will use these. All the other flowers will be somewhat abstract. All right, let's get going then. As always, I'm using liquid. That's this stuff right here. Fast dry medium. It's very transparent, very fast drying, and so I'm getting my brushes saturated. And again, my cheap chip. And what color shall I start with? I'm going to play it. I'm going to go conservative, if you will, traditional for me, which is oxide red, which of course is a brown. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole canvas that color. There, prettier already. Rich, rich, rich color. Ooh, that's nice. Now, I'm going to wipe off these brushes just with some paper towels. Oh, and then give them an additional wipe with a large rag. I'm not going to clean them, so to speak, like with Gamsol. I'm just going to rub them clean. All right. Now, some yellow. So I didn't say this, but I'm assuming it's pretty obvious that my painting has quite a bit more color in it, more color and more colors both than the photograph. Of course, that's very intentional. Yep, not a mistake, not an accident. That's done on purpose. All right, now I'm going to pick up some green. It's a Viridian green, I think. I'm not at all fussy about which greens I put on my palette because I'm just not married to any green. I'm pretty fussy about all my other colors, but not green. All right, so that's just I want to pump quite a bit more color into this painting than exists in the photograph. Down here, I want some blue, not phthalo, ultramarine. I guess I'll clean off these brushes again. I thought I might be able to get by with dirty brushes, but not quite this dirty. So I'm going to do some ultramarine and purple, or some kind of purple. I don't even know. Normally my go-to purple is dioxazine violet. Nice, very intense. But at the moment I have some other funky color. I can't even remember what it is. But it's a more redder, more purple-y violet, more reddish violet than dioxazine. And a little bit of ultramarine. So bluish purple is what I'm mixing up with lots of liquid. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, so really classic, classic vignette technique, darkening the corners, right? This corner's already dark. That one, so is that. So, yeah, good enough. I think I'm done with the glazing. So one of the things I do, and this is kind of very minor or very simple or very silly, but because my oil paintings are all, start out as acrylics, I am somewhat careful to do an oil glaze over the entire canvas. I don't want any little bits of virgin acrylic peeking through, poking through, right? That's just me being a little bit OCD. I want to be able to tell people this is an oil painting, you know, so that it has oil over the entire surface. Doesn't have any, as I said, virgin acrylic still showing through. All right, I'm going to go ahead now, slight variation from my norm, but very slight. I'm going to do my fuzz layer right now. So fuzz is translucent, that is to say opaque paint applied very thinly. So titanium white and some Naples yellow. I guess I'll start with that. So fuzz layer is translucent light paint, light colored paint, applied in a translucent manner. Whoops, I do want it yellower now for this part. Even a little bit of orange in it. With very soft edges, very, very, very soft edges. The softness of an edge is what suggests a glow in a painting. If you want something to look like it's glowing, the key, it's not primarily about how light it is, it's primarily how soft the edge is. So I just exaggerated that orange Scarlet Lake to this mixture. There we go. Yeah, that's better. All right, and then the white, keep using these same two brushes. Just give them a quick rub down with the paper towel and then a rag. All right, now back to pure titanium white on the dirty brushes. Lots and lots and lots of glow up here. As you can see, that's as you know, a major theme or element in the painting is glow, glow, glow. Play of light is, of course, you know this already. The most important aspect of any painting is play of light. So that's all I'm doing right now is making the light play. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Glow, glow, glow. All right, am I done? I think I'm going to actually do a little bit of green glow. That's unusual. Very bright, chartreusey thing. Language only an artist could understand. Chartreusey. Very bright chartreuse-ish color on the brushes. All right. Now I need to clean those brushes now. Been half my life cleaning brushes, I promise. When I am rich, I will hire an assistant who will just stand by me all the time. I'll just throw my brushes at him and say, clean this, clean this, clean this. But I'll pay him, I'll be nice. I won't throw the brushes rudely. I say, please clean this. There we go. More like that, more like that. Please clean this. Not holding my breath for that day to come. Aha! I wasn't sure if I was going to do any more, but I am. Here's a funny little practice, a trick, perhaps you could say. I don't know. This is just, maybe this is just a Dan Nelsonism. Maybe it's a weird Dan Nelsonism. But virtually every painting looks good with a little transparent permanent rose. Now, permanent rose is a very specific color. It's a close to magenta. Just, it's my favorite my favorite red, my favorite transparent red. Permanent rose. It almost doesn't matter where I put it, in my crazy opinion. And that's a little bit too mild. I don't know if you can saw it appear. It had an effect, but not much. So let's do some more. And by the way, I'm using there we go, there we go. Just a little bit of magic. Just permanent rose just looks so good in its transparent glory. I have another similar crazy practice to this, and that is that transparent permanent rose always looks wonderful. And a little bit of periwinkle blue, opaque, light periwinkle blue looks good. That's periwinkle blue is a purplish blue. Very light. Those are crazy rules. You know, I'm not sure they qualify. They don't quite get up to the level of rule. Practice is more like the practice I have. All right, I have now some purple. All right, I think I'm done now with the glaze and done with the glow layer or the fuzz layer. So I'm ready to move right on to dark details. And the first thing I'm going to do, here I'm going to do the most careful drawing I've done yet. And I'm using a pencil, which is, as you all know, very unconventional. Use your maul stick here. So this is Leslie's, the bride's hand, of course. And I actually know these people, not well. They are friends of mine, but so they're indeed friends. Oh, and she's wearing a bracelet. I didn't notice that till right now. Glad I caught that. So this is the one part of the painting that I feel like must be drawn pretty carefully. It's like a portrait, if you will, of the bride's hand. I had sketched it in very roughly earlier. Well, there's her index finger way up there. All right, so we do not. Okay, wait a minute. I'm changing my mind here. I'm going to move all these fingers down. So redrawing. Again, I say this often. In my early stages of drawing, I make free to, I give myself permission to throw down marks without a great deal of measuring or premeditation. I just do it rather quickly, but then give myself permission, encourage myself to make corrections as I go along. So that's what you're seeing right here. Is I'm going to have to do a little bit of fancying up on that hand. I can get there from here, it just needs a little work. All right. Now, let me pull up. Now I need to decide which of these two roses. It's that one. I'm not going to try to draw it petal for petal right now, but close, just closer. Okay, good enough for now. And if there's anybody watching me and you're not a normal, you're not one of a normal follower, I must tell you that the use of pencils in an oil painting is quite unconventional. Okay, so don't be fooled. Don't be thinking, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to use pencils in my. No, you're not. Obviously, I think you can, but it's not at all conventional. And my use of the pencils is not parallel to, say, a traditional, old-fashioned traditional oil painter's use of charcoal at the beginning of the painting process. This is not parallel to that. In that case, the artist does not expect or want the charcoal lines to show in the finished work. I, on the other hand, very much want these, or some of these, lines to show in the finished painting. So there's the difference. I'm actually using the pencils as a design element, as line or texture. Either one would be accurate. And I don't know if you can tell, I imagine perhaps you can, but at this point I'm actually following the abstract marks in my acrylic underpainting more than I am following the photograph. When I was doing the wild and crazy abstract painting, though painting loosely, I was careful to make sure I ended up with leaf-ish shapes down here, and finger-ish shapes even here, right? And so in the last several minutes, I've been tracing those my abstract marks here more than carefully copying the photograph. And I think it's going to work quite well. Next, after drawing, as I just did, you saw me draw with pencils. Now I'm going to draw with small brushes, dark details. With pretty small brushes. So what I hope to achieve with this layer, with this phase of the painting right here that I'm about to start, besides, of course, drawing, making the objects more accurate or realistic, one of the most, perhaps the most important objective of this phase of the painting is theoretically at least, this is where I achieve my adequate darks. So theoretically, at least, at the end of this stage, my darks are in place. And generally speaking, I want darks, if they don't go to a number 10, they at least go to a 9 on a 10-degree grayscale. Okay, maybe they don't go all the way to a, as I said, to a 10. That is black, black, black. But pretty darn close. There are some artists who habitually or make a practice of avoiding even those extremes, you know, a 0 or a 10 or even a 1 or a 9, and because they say those values don't actually appear in nature, and I see their point. I do. But I just think, given the choice, our eyes would rather see more value than more is better than less, generally speaking. Generally, of course. Learn the rule and then break it when you think it should be broken. Just a little bit of shadow between the fingers there. So we're just making stuff up here right now. Again, I'm acknowledging that this is an unconventional composition, or framing is really the word more than composition. The way I have cropped the scene where the bouquet, the star of the show, ostensibly the focus of the image is, of course, these white roses, the beautiful bridal bouquet. But I have cropped it or framed it in such a way that I'm saying, no, 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 not really. I guess I'm saying that the white roses per se are not. They're important, but they're not. What is important is the bride's hand holding the bouquet. So I'm not going to paint the bride's hand in high relief or in high contrast or detail. No, no, no. And my thinking is going to be so I guess I'm saying, I'm sort of saying to your mind, well, you know what flowers look like. Well, there's a bunch of flowers. It's the bride holding the flowers is what I'm more focused on. Don't know if that makes sense or not, but I think that's what I'm saying here. And of course, I'm hoping that my client agrees with me. I'm also dragging these stems, as you can see, down to go off the canvas. So the bouquet actually goes off the canvas, 3 sides of the canvas. And then the bride is on this side of canvas. Do I have adequate darks? Almost, almost. Let's just do a little bit more. And even though I'm not copying the bouquet leaf for leaf or petal for petal or even flower for flower, I certainly am trying to capture the essence, the values, the essence, good enough, of that bouquet. All right. I don't expect to broadcast this all the way through the completion of this painting necessarily. No, I won't have the energy for that, but I'll get into the final edit stage before I quit here. So I'm still in the drawing dark details phase, but I'm going to start drawing the main rose and some of the main roses a little bit. So I have a dirty yellow on my, and now I am fairly focused on rendering petal for petal that one rose. Now, again, for anybody, if anybody's watching me who doesn't, you're not one of my regular followers, first of all, I'll come up for air and say, okay, my approach to painting is quite unconventional in a number of respects. The fact that I do transparent acrylics underneath is not extremely rare, but somewhat unusual. The fact that if you want to have one word, if you want to figure out where to put me in your lexicon of painters or painting techniques, the one word description that would be most accurate would be I paint transparent. I paint layers and layers and layers of transparent color. All the colors on this canvas right now, all the colors are in fact transparent. In a few minutes, as soon as I finish this yellow, in a few minutes I will in fact make a big transition to opaque, and I'm just about there right now. Thinking. Okay, sure. Let's make that transition. So now I'm transitioning to what I typically call the final edit layer. Now, my final edit layer for many years was in fact my final layer. My technique has evolved. It's always evolving slowly, so that now I have 3 or 4 additional layers after the final edit layer. But the function of the final edit layer is still what that name implies. It's like the editing process. So right now I'm putting out a bunch of titanium white. Again, just for what it's worth. I always use alkyd. See that word right there? Alkyd, that means fast dry. It means it's got an alkaline as opposed to acidic. It's got an alkaline dryer in it. So that my titanium white will dry more quickly. All right, so I'm launching now into final edit layer. In fact, I'm going to sit down. I'd rather stand up and paint, but after a while, the sore feet or the tired legs pull the trump card. Becomes more important than the freedom of standing up. So let's bring you guys down. Where to start the final edit layer is always a question. Furthest away. So the furthest away is the the script background. And for some reason, and it's always different. I don't have any, there's no always, I want to fairly accurately, in comparison to it. Once again, so now I'm looking at the Google image photo, you know, the rows that trying to decide which petal is going to be my North Star, if you will. Okay, so that's that one right there. And I make all my other marks to some degree. I mentioned this morning when I was finishing up a couple portraits. When in doubt, and I mean that pretty literally, this is not how you always paint, but when in doubt, that's pretty ironic if you follow me at all, because you know that I'm very often railing against, certainly against the hyper-realistic or photorealistic or super-realistic school of painting, because realism is the be-all and end-all, is not the high watermark, if you will, of painting. Now, in the first, as I say, in the first half of your journey, first half of your painting journey, for most of us, that looks like stuff. And the second half of your journey, you learn, and not everybody makes this transition, and that's all right. Not everybody's supposed to do the same journey, but generally speaking, stuff that looks like stuff. I know that sounds, it's kind of double talk, kind of cute way to say it. I'm saying it, and it's still true again. So anyway, for me to say that when in doubt, move toward realism, a regular follower, then hopefully you recognize the irony too. So, of course, part of the statement there is a long sense of direction, focus, you know, I know where I'm going, what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. In those cases, I'm very loose and abstract and free and, quote unquote, fall back on realism. Realism never requires any explanation. If you throw up, of course, if you put up, I'm not making reference to any gastronomical process. If you put up in front of people, I don't get it. Nobody says, what's that? Whereas if you throw up, again, no reference to, anyway, never mind. If you put up in front of people a painting with lots of abstract energy in it, then a number of people will, in fact, say, I don't get it, what are you doing? Okay, and so on. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, as an artist, when you come across those moments, fault to realism. And again, that's pretty ironic coming from me, but I really think it's true. I'd rather not be in a place where I'm in doubt. I don't know if I'm, anyway, but when I am. And sometimes I'm in doubt as to what the client wants. Does that make sense? Maybe that's part of what I'm saying, is when you're doing a commission and you're not really sure what your client wants. What are they looking for? That's why commissions are hard, because you are playing a game, and if a mental game. Anyway, when in doubt, default to accurate rendering. For me to imagine people complaining if you do a render. Like if I took, can you see this? Yeah, if I took that photograph right there and gridded it out or did something and just really, really, you know, strung out the process and got hyper vigilant and detailed and small brush and everything and just rendered the heck out of that thing, my client might be a little surprised. It's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Ooh, I don't like that sense. Now, of course, I have to take into account, again, these people, they know my work, but yeah, You hear me waffling? Yeah, I'm waffling. I just turned the yellow that was on my brushes into green. I don't like that green. Needs to be. Hello, Uncle 60. This is in fact the final edit layer where I make decisions about what to edit out. That is by covering up, because the paint on my brushes is fairly opaque. And to blot stuff out by covering it up. That's the down and dirty of it. That's the simple explanation. I can eliminate stuff because I'm painting now like a traditional oil painter. I'm painting with opaque paint. So the trick is, at this stage, deciding what to keep and conversely deciding what to eliminate. So that's why I call it final edit layer, because it's very much an editing process. I also, most of the marks that I'm making, not all, but most or many of the marks that I'm making in the final edit layer are fairly hard edged. And as you know, that's a dangerous impulse, right? Hard edges are dangerous. Be careful, because it's very easy for a painting to have too many hard edges. Very easy to make that mistake. Oh, too many hard edges. Nearly impossible, conversely, nearly impossible. Okay, I'm getting tired of green now. Nearly impossible for a painting to have too many soft edges. I'm not done with that rose. I was just done with, you see it's yellower in the middle and then goes to a, no, let me stay on task. I wanted to do a little bit of the hand, the fingers, the flesh tone here. So I'm mixing up a medium, not too light, not too light, not too dark, but especially not too light flesh tone to begin. Rendering this hand. And once again, I'm being careful not to be too careful. It's an expression that I use a lot when I'm painting, when I'm teaching in a class in person. Whoa, 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 be careful not to be too careful. Make some creative, messy marks. The paintings, it's kind of like it ain't over till it's over. And until it's over, it ain't over. That is so true in art. So you can take your time as you inch your way toward the finished image, the finished painting. I haven't said yet today, so the day's not. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. There's tension between, inevitable tension between and interesting marks. There's a tension there. So if you're not experiencing that tension, then you're not understanding loose painting. But in the last year or two, journey painters are gravely misled when we use the term loose painting. I'm convinced that most early journey painters take that to mean subject matter. Oh, it doesn't matter if I'm not accurate, if it's not right, because it's loose. And that is amply visible in every amateur art show you will ever see. The amateur artists have mistaken the notion of looseness for inaccurate rendering. A better word, much better than loose, is energetic. So not so much, right? It was 6, 8, maybe more, probably not, 6 or 8 years ago. I was at a point in my journey where I became very conscious of this related dynamic. The verbiage I used was slightly different, but the verbiage I used was this. I said, I'm on an intentional quest for my paintings to become more accurate and more messy. Both. And again, I'm assuming that you see the irony, even the tension between those. Thanks, you're paying attention. It's exactly correct. It is opposite. Therefore, mysterious and difficult. And that's why I've been moving in that direction for 8 years, and I am far from finished with that trajectory. All right, before I go, to tell you, because I'll be working on this final edit layer for many more minutes, this size, don't you think? Let me tell you where I'm going. So this used to be the finished layer. I hope you can see why, because accomplished, and I can sign it and be done. But a number of things have happened. So let me tell you, in case you can't come back, or in case I paint without your company, of all the nerve, I know, but sometimes that happens. Let me tell you where I go from here. After the final edit layer, typically I do a broken color. That means matching values. Like let's take this yellowish leaf right here. I might mix up a purple or somewhere. That's just one example. And so I typically do a separate and distinct broken color stage, phase, layer. And I've got quite a bit of liquid, enough liquid in this painting that this whole painting should be dry by tomorrow, okay? So that gives me the freedom to do another glaze. So I'll do, yes, in fact, another, you've seen me do 45 or 50 minutes ago. It's very similar to that. Just whatever colors I want. You never know what colors I'm going to use until I'm using them. This looks like a work glove. So that needs some work there, ladies and gentlemen. After the glaze, then I will do, typically I'll do any dark details and finish again with light details. And then finally, one more, quickly often called sparkle. And in the sparkle stage or phase, I will often use a palette knife to get some intentional impasto. Or is it impasto? impasto, I guess, is what most people say. So get some definite little bits of texture, bumps of paint on the canvas. Anyway, so that's my typical. I don't always follow exactly the same formula, but that would be in these days. And that's several of those, all of those stages, I guess, are new in the last couple of years anyway, year and a half more to the point. All right, I'm sort of happy with, see this warm orange glow that's happening down here. Now I feel like the painting, if you couldn't see it before, you can see it now. The painting is, yeah, Uncle, the peanut gallery is silent. People watching in silent. Nobody's watching. Anyway, do you see how there's a lot of light energy? I mean, not as much as here, of course, but there's a significant amount of energy happening down there. Framing of the scene, if you will, is making more sense. Now you're actually seeing this as the focal point. Down here, I like my work glove. I don't really, I'm being funny. It does look like a work glove though. Early journey painters, why they want to hurry up and rush, in a sense, and get their image down. And I understand this impulse. I share it, but I just, frankly, probably have more confidence that it's going to be all right. Is when you leave something like that looks like, ooh, I better fix that. Do you hear that? Do you hear that anxiety that an early journey painter will allow that anxiety to drive them, to get a hold of them, and make them rush ahead. And that's what I'm saying. No, don't. Just leave it. No. We got plenty of time. Leave it. We'll come back and fix that later. Let it rest. Let's go somewhere else now. Does that make sense? I've never said it that exact way before. That's I think, a good way to describe a good approach to painting is be careful not to be too careful. Let the image emerge slowly out of the mist. All right, so now let's come up here and do some serious light that will help to make sense of, a lot more sense of the painting, I hope, when I get, this is, I do like, yes, this is some paint that I spilled on the painting, but the light glow, what's it called in photography? Blown out light, I think it's called. I want blown out light in my painting as well. In fact, it's very possible that I'll actually add more. Oh yeah, I'm going to add it right now. That I'll add more fuzz. I want it. If you want an object to feel, to appear that it has a lot of light hitting it, which clearly I do, right? Then you employ soft edges, soft edges, soft edges. Did I say soft edges yet? Soft edges. Like that. I'm going to be doing it today. I haven't been able to broadcast all this past week. But I'll be doing another bridal portrait, and I certainly hope I can show you. I won't finish this painting. I'll abandon this painting and move to a bridal portrait here in a little while. Talk about glow, though. You'll see when I get to that painting. I've just already in the acrylic stage, I've just loaded that, and it's working very well. Just loaded that painting with soft edges, and it's becoming much better than the photograph. If you want something to look like it's got a lot of light on it, the secret is soft edges. And by soft edges, I'm not like, how soft, a quarter inch, half inch? No, 3 inches. Maybe not on this size painting, but 1.5 or 2. That's glow, that's soft edges. I remember I really began learning about soft edges 20 some years ago, 21, 3 years ago, when I took a class and did a copy of a William Bouguereau painting. And I noticed how he would soften the, just picture a typical, you know, cherubic, maybe literally a cherub flying in a Bouguereau painting. The edge was very soft. So that was a big learning curve for me, but in the decade since, Bouguereau, you know, might be, you know, if you're going beyond Bouguereau, are you really getting better than him, or are you just going in a bad direction? That's a very good question. Anyway, for me, it's a good direction. I faithfully rendered one Bouguereau painting, and that was enough, I think. I still have friends who say, no, you should do that all the time. That should be your career. Because I did it really well. But no, not likely. Not likely to be my full-time career. All right, I think, actually, if you've watched me all the way to this point, I'll do just a little bit more of this white stuff. Well, it's actually not white, it's very pale yellow ochre, warm white, I guess would be the most typical name for it, of color, and that is I'm picking up a purple, and I forget, it might be a manganese violet, I forget what I put on it. Doesn't matter, I don't care about the, really. Anyway, I want some little surprise bits of purple down here. I was pretty careful to have some purple bits down in this painting in the acrylic stage. So I'm really not being as brave as it might appear. See, there's a bunch of purple down here. Do you see that? And all in here. Anyway, so I was quite careful to make sure I had some purple, because I knew there's some faint hints of it in the photograph, but I'm exaggerating tenfold easily over what the photograph has, because of course I'm not in the business of copying a photograph. I'm in the photograph take a hike, hang its head in shame, as it were. just in case you didn't want to make just in case you don't know it, you want to make the photograph hide its face in shame after it sees your painting. That's your goal. Now I've got a pretty straight, cool red on my brush right now. Again, has been a part of my plan from the get-go. This is actually, well, it's not exactly broken color, because it's also broken value, so this is doesn't qualify as broken color yet. I hope the bride doesn't say, well, I didn't have any red flowers in my bouquet. I don't think she will. I hope she won't, because, of course, again, my goal is to put the painting to shame. All right, that's a good place for me to stop. I'm happy with where the painting is right now. I would not be happy for it to be finished right now. Of course, the work glove is an issue, and there's not enough light up here. But it's good enough to stop. And I don't know if when I come back, if I'll do a glaze, or well, it depends. I have that option, painting wet and wet. It looks like a guy's hand holding. Doesn't it? No, I have to fix that. Yep, Hi, David. Good to hear from you. All right, so I'm going to end this broadcast. I've droned on plenty too long. And it's, having said that, hang on. If I just get rid of this one bright green leaf, not get rid of it like in an angry erasing way, but just paint with my finger and diminish it. That's a little better. There we go. That's better too. Yeah, a little too busy.